Okay. Hello. Good afternoon, everybody. From the main hall workshops to Sao Paulo and now to Zaragoza, and then I see Hong Kong. So it's not so easy to relate, but I think there are some issues to discuss interesting. I just will introduce the paper, the contribution, trying to explain why and how we approach this work, research. Then our colleagues, Díez and Ezquerra, will present the main points and the methodology. We have these basis of this work. So just the theoretical base and the objectives I think are important, and we can make some bullet points. The method draws on the experience of some workshops held at the University of Zaragoza, Spain, based on our research on public space as catalysts of urban regeneration. Last June, a couple of months ago, Belgrado was chosen to host the 2027 International Exhibition. It was very curious and was a narrow victory over the Spanish city of Malaga. It's interesting that another city, Zaragoza, hosts the 2008 International Exhibition, which had a profound impact on the city's public spaces. We think that something similar will likely happen here in Belgrado. Of course, everything depends on the delivering of high-quality urban projects and the ability to catalyze other strategic projects. With all this in mind, we are exploring the potentialities of linear public space projects. In this research and in our workshops, we focus on small, medium, and large-scale urban projects. Well, there is no need to argue why the focus on public space is increasingly relevant to this sort of regenerative urbanism, responsible urbanism, sustainable urbanism today. I think we might do so just with one quotation by Ezquerra in his very known right to the city, which we could also think as the right to public spaces, when he says these specific urban needs are likely to consist of needs for qualified spaces, places of simultaneity, encounters, places where the change will supplant exchange value, commerce, and profit. Building on this different idea, the right to the city, we think that this goal can be understood as the social dimension of urban sustainable development. The treatment of public space has a strong tradition in the discipline of urban planning, urban design. There are theories, a lot of theories, experiences of good urban projects. Some will be included in the so-called totalist artistic visual urbanism. Others are more concerned with the condition of use of public spaces. We could mention the Jacobs, we know critical modern urbanism, which emphasize the complexity of social functional aspect of the streets, sidewalks, squares, parks, or we could refer to some of the work of Kevin Díez with his interest in the city's legibility, or more specifically with William White on the social life of small public spaces, or many of the contribution of this conference is the work of Jan Gehl and the team in Copenhagen is presenting a lot of times. And of course, Jan Gehl considers himself a follower of Jacob's thoughts and proposals. The issues, what's new? What's new and what's new in the way we deal with public spaces. The experience of Barcelona since the 1980s, it is one of the most significant, of course, in all the Spanish cities and in Europe, the multiplication of specific operation of public spaces as a protagonist. In fact, the benchmark of the so-called Barcelona model was the quality of open public space. It is no coincidence that the European Urban Public Space Prize was created at the end of the 90s, the last decade of the last century, and the prize has now been awarded 11 times with a growing number of European cities taking part, and there is an important archive of successful urban projects. However, this is not an issue of just for European cities, as we see recently case many other cities and have placed public spaces in the heart of urban development. It's happened, for example, in Bogota, to say one city, and also in other cities, and other Latin American cities especially. Well, the importance of public spaces is also highlighted by the global trends towards achieving the sustainable development goals promoted by the urban agendas. One of the proposed targets of the Goal 11 is to highlight the importance of public spaces. In particular, in this case, the Spanish urban agenda includes among its strategic objectives revitalizing the existing city, qualifying public spaces, and it is essential to ensure pedestrian continuity. Well, the idea is to generate continuity in the system of open public spaces and also in the system of green corridors and green infrastructures in order to act as ecological connectors. So therefore we explore some linear urban projects to improve and reshape the cities with urban projects at different scales. And I give the floor to my colleague, Professor Carmen Díez.
We have selected some linear public space projects as a reference because they are paradigmatic samples showing public space potentiality as urban regeneration catalysts. The first strategy we have considered is the layout of tramway lines in Strasbourg and Zaragoza. This is part of the trend of promoting soft and non-motorized mobility. Both projects have been successful in recovering city center spaces for pedestrian and bicycles, in transforming peripheral roads into urban streets, and also in creating urban spaces with a quality which is usually only found in city centers. This strategy contributes to structuring central and peripheral urban areas, acting also as a factor of social cohesion. The second strategy we have considered is the intervention in obsolete railway lines. It is true that these two projects may raise critical views, but in general they had a positive impact on the city. So in Superkillen in Copenhagen, it could be argued that the recreation of exotic places borders on the kitsch character of a theme park. However, the unorthodox nature of this project has given rise to new collective spaces with different identities. And in this case, the, let's say, open celebration of social diversity has been directly transferred to the public space, favoring an interesting cultural enrichment. The second example, the Green Railway Corridor in Madrid. Here, even if there could be some criticism about the urban design on public spaces, we may say that at an urban scale, this linear strategic operation has succeeded. It now offers great possibilities for action at different scales. Let's move now to the third strategy, remodeling road systems on multiple scales. We have focused on two projects in Barcelona. The Superblocks plan, implemented in recent years, is based on the need to pacify traffic in Barcelona's Ensanche. The second case study is Meridiana Avenue, one of the backbone roads of Cerda's Ensanche. It was transformed into an 8-lane urban highway in the 60s, and the plan of redesigning the Meridiana as a civic axis and public space has implied reducing its 50-meter cross-section in a similar way as happens in the rest of the Ensanche, half for pedestrians and half for cars. Both strategies bet on more equitable, sustainable mobility and more inclusive, safe and quality public spaces. And both show the potential that the reconversion of road systems has for updating urban regeneration to the conditions of contemporary cities. And finally, here you have two projects related to public spaces in urban riverbanks. Again, despite their different size, Zaragoza and Madrid's riverbanks had a similar lack of integration with the city. The project in Madrid Rio consists of converting a large grey infrastructure into a green and blue one. Its singularity lies in the decision to vary the highway through a tunnel of more than 50 kilometers, creating a linear corridor that connects the green areas along the Manzanares River. The second project, the Zaragoza Water Park, is an excellent example of new urban landscape approaches. Here, public space improves the relationship between the built city and the riverside. This kind of strategy has contributed in both projects to structuring different urban sectors along the riverbanks, becoming important green infrastructures in both cities. Well, I give the floor now to Isabel, who will explain the workshop developed in Zaragoza.
With all this in mind, the urban planning workshop of the Monclús Architecture and the University of Zaragoza has been working for years with real development projects of cities linked to actions promoted by the administration. This has shown its vocation to link teaching with transfer and to put the knowledge and projects carried out in the academic field at the service of the city. The urban landscape and contemporary project research group also works along these lines, trying to bridge the gap between theory and practice. Based on the previous reflections on the potential that public space has to catalyze urban regeneration and restructuring operations, the east-west axis of Zaragoza was proposed as a working theme for the 2020 academic year. The starting point was the idea of a new urban east-west axis which could complement the recent north-south axis, created with the sequence of public spaces associated to the tram line. This east-west transversal corridor should serve the whole city, resolving the connection with the intermodal station as a large-scale centrality point in the west of the city. In addition, it will have a great positive impact on the urban regeneration of the ordinary neighborhoods located in the west and southeast. The idea, therefore, is to combine a strategic urban project of intermediate scale with specific urban acupuncture proposals that can be initiated through tactical urban planning actions. We worked on 20 proposals that correspond to different urban sectors, and all of them are structured through a master plan which coordinates them and presents the overall results from a cross-cutting point of view. The proposals located in the western sector try to generate a clear structure of open spaces that facilitate the permeability at urban, neighborhood, and local scale. Here we can see a proposal with a linear project referred to those previously presented. It is placed on the hinge between this new transversal axis and the green corridor that crosses the Oliver neighborhood in a north-south direction, over the space previously occupied by the railroad tracks. In the central area, most of the proposals are linked to the historical operation of burying the train tracks. The one we can see here at the center of the slide is placed on the land of the former central station, which today represents an urban gap in the city. Work is being done on the permeabilization and activation with new uses, as well as on the section of the road axis. Proposals in the eastern part are concentrated in the neighborhood of Las Fuentes and in the area around the street Belgrado. Between the two areas, a north-south corridor would complete the east-west axis and connect the banks of the Ebro River with the Imperial Canal. This corridor includes a new pedestrian access through the implementation of a superblock system in the neighborhood. The research carried out as part of this workshop has produced some important outcomes. It highlights the usefulness of the identification of key elements of urban structure and urban form for the development of regeneration urban strategies and projects at different scales. The accompanying flowchart shows a different approach to the conventional one, which usually follows a top-down process in the development of general visions. Instead, there is an emphasis on the importance of addressing different scales at the same time. This highlights the value of the trans or multi-scalar approach in integrated urban regeneration or regenerative urbanism. Thinking at urban scale is what we mean by structural interventions. Rather than operating across the entire city, we consider both its opportunities and threats in a linear area. Instead of looking at the administrative district or the neighborhood, we look at the intermediate scale, the scale of urban project itself. And finally, we aim to develop public spaces in detail at the smaller and local scale, the more architectural one. However, it's not so much a matter of size as a matter of detail. This is why we are aware that such an integrated approach is essential in order to move towards a higher quality and more sustainable scenario for our cities and landscapes. Thank you.